Being a parent, changes you. I think for me, it changed, everything about me, my blueprint, how I view the world, how I view love, how I view friends, relationships. And, these are things that is very hard to explain, especially when dating or to friends, because I feel like no one really knows how to be there for you. So I made a list of all of the things that, 5 things that, most people struggle with, and how losing a parent changes the way you love. Like for me, I lost my mom when I was 15, and it was kind of like a blindsided kind of thing. And I remember from that day on, I just kind of felt like I'm I'm just not safe anywhere. Like I can remember, couch surfing and being from place to place, and just feeling like I have to become a shell of myself to not really explain how I'm feeling, and also having the fear of trying to explain to someone how I'm feeling, but then having them using it against me, and always constantly being super vigilant of them checking in on me of how are you feeling now? Are you sad? Do you want to be left alone? It's just like it's very very hard to explain, but definitely when it comes to relationships, I've never actually felt emotionally safe, and it took me all the way up until now at 36 to realize that I never felt emotionally safe, because it's like a push pull dynamic. Like I want to be close to you, but I'm super aware of how fragile life is, and you know, call me like doom or negative, but I just feel like from losing my mom at 15 that I can lose anyone at any given minute. So not only do I try to cherish the moments that I have, but it's also like I'm well aware that this could also be the last time that I may hang out with them. Um, so I guess in one way it helps make the most of it, but in the second half it just feels like this never ending loop, of just trying to find comfort, in people. And then that leads me to, being super, super hyper independent of, this thing happened to me. I don't want to be viewed as this sole thing that happened to me. So I want to grab life by the horns, and I want to make sure that I put myself in a position to win. And, a lot of these things come from the fact of me wanting to make my mom proud, and me wanting to be someone that, she could smile down on, as crazy as that may sound to people who've never lost a parent. But that's just, how I feel. And if you've lost a parent or someone that you love that's close to you, you understand the sentiment. Um, and I think that kind of bleeds into relationships, when you are hyper independent, you sometimes don't give people the benefit of the doubt, or sometimes you rush the process because you are so afraid of, something falling apart, that you're trying to piece everything together on your timeline, because you want something so bad, because there's a void. There's a void in your heart. And it took me up until now to realize that a person, a relationship, a job can never fill that. An accomplishment can never fill that void of the love of a parent, which is the most genuine love that you're ever going to have. So that also led me to feeling like, you know, I guess abandonment issues of this thing can go left at any given moment, whether it's with friends, family, a career, a job. So in one way it pushes you to be your best self and be your top performer. And then the next breath it forces you to never fully relax and take a day off. And it's just like something that I think normal people just don't quite understand, because they feel whole, I guess, in their world. And for me, I always feel like I'm operating at 50% from the minute that I lost my mom. And I've been trying to fill that 50% with a career, accomplishments, friends, um, a good social life, and it's just like a never ending loop. So definitely when you have abandonment issues from losing a parent, it definitely affects, the way you navigate relationships and people, because you learn how to read people much faster. You learn how to read the room much faster. And also you never really feel like you're welcome. Even if people are extending you the welcome, it just kind of feels like if they know about the things that you're grieving, that it's almost like a sympathy thing. Or if they don't know the things that you're grieving, you kind of have to wear this mask 24/7. So it's just a weird thing to try to explain to people. And then when you actually do date and things are going well, at least for me, I had bad habit of trying to find home in other people. Like, okay, I lost this family and I don't have a family, and now that I'm on the verge of possibly creating a family, this is my new home. This relationship, if it leads to marriage and kids, like this is going to be my new home. So you put a lot of emotional stake in it, which is in hindsight, I realize it's unfair to the person that I'm dating. And it just kind of creates much more stress and pressure in the relationship because you're still carrying this grief with you. And for me, I didn't realize I was carrying all this grief with me up until I really sat down and I was truly, truly single, with no talking stages, nobody to text, nobody do anything. And then that's when I really got to understand all of the waves of emotions that come, and I'm sad and I'm happy and I'm chilling and I'm neutral. And that's when I really started to understand it. And I couldn't understand it when I was in a relationship because there's so many things that are you're working towards in a relationship, dates and hanging out and meeting friends and gossip and trying to get to the next level in your career. So you end up putting grief like on the back burner and you kind of reserve it for holidays. Like, that the holidays are going to come. You're going to be sad. That the birthdays are going to come. That you're going to be sad. So you kind of brace yourself for it. But it's just a terrible way to kind of deal with it. And I didn't really deal with it until I became truly single and I let those emotions pass. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm sad and I miss my mom and I wish that I could call and maybe talk to my brothers, but then even that is like something else because you're always aware of the other people that is affected, so you're always kind of walking on eggshells of trying to talk about this dark cloud without ruffling any feathers if they're in a good emotional state. So you just end up dealing with it on your own. And that's what helped me heal, you know, all of these things that I didn't know that I was carrying with me into relationships and affected the way that I trusted people, the way that I loved people, the way I read the room, the way I felt safe, the way I felt unsafe. So if you are, dealing with this in any form, any way, shape, or form, you're not alone. You're not alone. For a long time, I thought that I was crazy. I thought that I would go to sleep and wake up and I'd be 15 again, and this didn't really happen. But as adults, we learn how to put labels on things and categorize things, and it's just a feeling. And I just try to remember that she's with me every step of the way. She's gotten me to this point. She's woken me up every single day. She's helped me accomplish a lot of things, and she's always going to be with me. So it's a weird thing to try to explain to somebody. It's a weird thing to try to explain to somebody, when you're dating, because they 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 look at you for what you represent and what you represent to the relationship. So talking to someone about the things that you love and the people that you lost is super hard because you're always afraid that they're not going to look at you the same. You're always afraid that they're going to start to treat you differently or look at you, with a sign of sympathy when it's really not. I just really want to talk about this hole in my heart. So if you have lost a parent, lost a friend, lost a loved one, you're not alone. You're not crazy. Grief just kind of shows up randomly on a random Tuesday morning sometimes. Sometimes it shows up while you're eating dinner by yourself. Sometimes it shows up when you are walking and you see someone that reminds you of them. And that's not really something that you can brace for or prepare for. You just kind of have to feel and kind of go through it. And then I think the last one, like, I think it affects my relationship with life and, eventually one day passing on. I just feel like because it's such a big event that changed my life at 15, I don't look at passing away as a bad thing. I always look at passing away as, you know, maybe I'll get to see her in heaven. Maybe I'll get to finally give her a hug. So, you know, it's it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing, when you miss somebody you loved and you're trying to recreate that love with other people, and they just, you just can't compare the two. So if you, oh, holy God, Jesus Christ, uh, uh, if you're dealing with that, you're not alone. I see you. I'm praying for you. And the biggest thing that got me through this is my conversations with God and how much my mom believed in God, and just looking at my life and trying to think about how blessed I am and how she didn't, go through all she went through for me to give up. So that's the thing that keeps me going. Whether I ever find a partner, and I ever feel like I'm at home again, I'm okay with that. I've accepted that because home is always going to be where I'm at. And as long as I keep her in my heart, and I'll always kind of have that. So I've learned how to separate the void and the pain from losing a parent to the love and safety of a partner. One is completely separate, and one is a journey that I kind of have to carry myself. Um, and I'm still working on it. I still don't know how to bring it up in conversations. I still don't know how to share this because this is a very sensitive thing that most people want to know about when you're dating. What are you doing for the holidays? What's your relationship like with your parents? So it's kind of like this big elephant in the room that you want to talk about, but you're always afraid of being judged a certain way or being looked at a certain way or being criticized. Oh, that this is why you're like this. This is why you are like this. This is why you're like this because you lost your parent, because you lost your friend. And it's just like that's the worst part about dating or making friends with people, because they start to make these assumptions of you. Like, it's okay to just be sad sometimes. That doesn't mean that I'm not functioning. It doesn't mean that, I don't want to live. It just means that I can't control when these waves hit me. The only thing I can control is how I try to deal with the wave and how I try to let it pass through me instead of avoiding it. Um, and it's kind of like that show, Dexter. Like, this is like my dark passenger. Whenever that wave comes, I just try to let it flow through me and try to honor her in a way that I think she would like, whether it's a prayer, whether it's a walk, or just getting up and doing something for myself. And I just feel like whenever I feel that is also her putting her hand on my shoulder, telling me I'm okay. I made it through that. And that was 21 years ago. And I still feel like it was just yesterday. So it is what it is, I guess. But they're always going to be with us, they're always going to be in our hearts. And a relationship is never going to fill that hole that you have if that's where you think a relationship is going to be, whether it's your wife, your girlfriend. It's never going to fill it. You have to honor that in a different way and realize that you're not broken. You are just a human and you have feelings. And this is a very big feeling that sometimes you can't control and it passes through you. So I hope this helps you. And if you are missing someone right now, I just challenge you to just go do something to honor them. And that's what's gotten me through 21 years of grief. And I miss my mom every day. I'll catch you guys on the next one.